Okay. Well, thanks to everyone for coming out this evening. There isn't a quorum. My erstwhile colleagues from the Township Committee, I shouldn't say that, one's just arrived, but we still don't have a quorum, so it's not going to be a Township Committee meeting tonight, but it will be a public presentation. And the New Jersey American Water, several representatives are here in the room tonight, and they are going to discuss the details of their recent bid for the Long Hill Township water system, water treatment system. And they're going to go over their expertise and experience that will enable them to run the system in a cost-efficient manner that will benefit the township and its residents. So, at the conclusion of New Jersey American's presentation, we'll then open the floor up to a question and answer for the New Jersey American group here. So before I turn the floor to the colleagues from New Jersey American, I think what I wanted to do was just to provide a very brief, and I promise it will be brief, history of the course of events that really brought us here today. Around 2013-2014 time period, the town invested a total of $4.5 million to partially address problems associated with the sewer plant. That $4.5 million covered some improvements to the plant itself, but $1 million of it was set for lining the pipes. And to give you an idea of the expense associated with that $1 million covered only 3% of the pipes within the town that had to be relined. And so the township committee, the township committee realised that there was going to have to be a very significant additional investment that was going to have to be made in the system if we were to achieve the goals that we'd set out for the township in regard to the plant. First of all, we wanted to bring the plant into compliance with current and future DEP regulations and permitting capacity. And to give you an idea here, right now the plant's permitted for 0.9 million gallons per day. If we have a significant rain event in town, we can have 4.5 million gallons pouring into the plant. And so that's a problem both for the Passaic Watershed, but it's also a very big problem for the town because obviously we're on DEP's radar, and they can come in, and they haven't as yet, but they certainly can come in and levy some significant fines to the town. We then wanted to, we also, as another goal, we wanted to address the current and future township needs to improve the plant operations and reduce maintenance costs. And this is a very important one because we don't know the actual extent of the obligation, but we do know that we will have a co-obligation, and that we should know that fairly soon. And in order to comply with that obligation, we need to have sewer capacity, and we currently don't have that. We also want to improve the overall effectiveness of the wastewater system by reducing all unwanted infiltration and inflow, this so-called I&I, and make all the improvements to the necessary improvements to what is a very aged infrastructure at this point. And most of all, our prime goal is that since I believe the 80s or the early 90s, the town has been in a voluntary sewer ban, and it is our goal to eliminate that ban entirely. And so, as we looked at the goals and we looked at the investment that would be required for the system. We began to look at various options, and because you're probably all aware of this, but I'll remind you that we run the sewer, the treatment plant as a revenue neutral. We run it as revenue neutral, and so basically the costs that we incur are passed on to the users of that system. And so, as we looked at options, we had the first option, which was really a status quo, was to make the investments and then simply pass them on to the users of the system, to you, the residents. Realising that they would be significant, we then decided to look at some other options, and so with that we began to look into third-party relationships where we could outsource management of the plant or run a concession, which is similar to outsourcing, or the potential of an outright sale. So, to guide us in this programme, we retained the law firm of Hawkins, Delafield and Wood to really help us and guide us through our evaluation, and the attorneys that we've worked with throughout the process are here tonight and will also be available to answer questions. So, as part of the due diligence, we met with a number of third parties to elicit information and suggestions on the best approach for the township to achieve the goals that I just laid out. So we met with companies such as Aqua, United Water, New Jersey American, and Middlesex Water. And these are all in the business of managing systems as well as actual, potentially purchasers of the system. We also sought out New Jersey municipal officials who had experience with the sale of utilities and wastewater management in terms of concessions and outsourcing. So we talked to officials from Haddonfield, Warren Township, Sewerage Authority, and also Perth Amboy. So, whenever we had completed this phase of the diligence, we realised we weighed all the options and decided that from the perspective of cost, the efficiency of the operations, and most importantly, from the perspective of risk to the township, that an outright sale of the system was the best course of action to take. And so, at the beginning of this year, we embarked on a course of action that really brings us to where we are today. We had evaluation of the system performed by the engineering firm of Remington Vernick, and they also included an annual budget over a 20-year period for just the system maintenance that would keep it up to specifications. And with that, we've put together the specifications for a bid document. New Jersey American, as you're all aware, was the highest bidder, and they're here tonight, as I said. From a township committee perspective, we introduced an ordinance that would put the question of the sale as a referendum question to be answered by you, the residents, in November. And from the very outset, the Township Committee had decided that this was too momentous a decision to be taken by just 5 representatives of the community. We truly wanted the entire community to have input. So the ordinance is up for its second reading at the next Township Committee meeting, and that will be July 26th. And if it's adopted and we move forward to the referendum, we as a Township Committee will make sure that all the residents have the opportunity to gather as much information as they need in order to make an educated and well-informed decision. This meeting tonight is the first of many that we will hold. I think we're planning on at least another 4 to 5 meetings of this kind in the township. We will continue to add all the information. I should say that on our website there's a tab with all of the documents that we've assembled to date. It's there for everybody to peruse. This meeting tonight will be recorded and will also be up on the website, as will all the other meetings that we hold. And so we really encourage all residents to become engaged in this this process. We want you to ask the questions that you feel you need to ask in order to make that important decision in November. And so with that, I will turn the meeting over to the colleagues from New Jersey American. Yeah, we're going to have a presentation by New Jersey American, and then after that, there's going to be an open question and answer. You can ask questions of New Jersey American, the committee. As I said, we have representatives from the attorneys who have been with us the entire time that we've been looking at it. So we're all here. Yeah.
More than asking questions.
Well, I think at this point, just for this meeting, what we would like to do, it's really the first of an informational type of meeting, and so the way we envisaged it would be a presentation and more of question and answer. Certainly, we could, if you want to make a statement, we can certainly allow that, as long as you respect the time and make it brief.
Well, there hasn't really been an announced meeting for input from the community yet.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be that meeting, but then it was commandeered to make it into the presentation by the corporation.
No, I mean we've just to set the record straight. We've actually had open discussions of the process throughout the time that it's been running, and in fact, whenever we were putting together the bid documents, we had input from the public on that one. But as I say, we could make every effort. If you want to come up and make a statement, then you can certainly do that.
And Brendan, to be clear, this is the first of at least 6 or 7 of these types of meetings. Specific to this, there will be township committee meetings on July 26th, another one in August, 2 in September, 2 in October. So you'll have multiple opportunities to speak.
But your vote is the next meeting.
No, our vote is just if there's a referendum.
Yeah, our vote is the vote. As I said, the ordinance that we vote on at the next meeting on the 26th is to open it up to referendum. It's the people of Long Hill Township, the residents, that will make this decision.
Okay, but I'll be allowed to speak, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
You haven't explained the ordinance. The ordinance says that if there's a yes vote, you will sell it to American Water. So it's a little more than just putting on the ordinance and the members' 7th vote. You're right. It will be a vote by the township, and if it's a yes, we will sell to New Jersey American. It's a little more than just taking a vote by the township. Well, this is all the setup you have in order to get that done at that time, if it's yes.
Yeah, and I'd like to rephrase it. What the township committee intends to do is respect the vote of the residents.
Okay, thanks. I think what we're doing is getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Maybe we can get into that later, because as I say, we have a presentation here, and we want to make sure that all the residents are absolutely informed. Thanks.
Just want to thank the Deputy Mayor for inviting us here tonight. My name is Kevin Watsey. I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs for New Jersey American Water. With me is Tom Schroba, who's our Senior Director of Operations for our northern region, which encompasses Long Hill. We also have some other representatives here from New Jersey American tonight that I'll briefly introduce. Nick DeVecchis, who's our Manager of Business Development. He was really the lead when the town put out the bid. He led our effort on the due diligence and put our response to the RFP out. We also have Nick Pinto, who is our Manager of Field Services for this area. He handles this town and many other towns on behalf of the water company. Mike Malloy, who's a project manager for us. He's also a resident of Long Hill. Mike Roberti, who manages our statewide sewer system for New Jersey American Water, and Gail Driscoll, who's our Manager of External Affairs for New Jersey American Water. And I just want to thank everybody for showing up tonight and thank the folks that are watching at home. Why aren't you here? With that, I'd like to turn it over to Tom, who's going to basically introduce New Jersey American Water to everybody and introduce our expertise in the sewer space to everybody. So, Tom.
Thanks, Kevin, and good evening to everybody who's here. Again, thanks to Council for giving us this opportunity to speak and to explain who we are. So thank you to the residents that are here to listen to about what American Water brings to the table. So let me just first talk about American Water, then I'll get into what American Water is committed to as part of this bid. So New Jersey American is a company made up of 800 employees that's dedicated to providing safe, reliable water and wastewater service to customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You may think of us as a water company and not so much as a wastewater company. It's in our name, New Jersey American Water. And our footprint would also tell you that we're a water company. Yes, the water footprint is much larger than our wastewater footprint. We serve 191 communities in 18 counties in New Jersey. We have roughly 650,000 customers, or not customers, accounts. So when you equate that to customers, it's about 2.7 million customers, which is about 1 to every 3 people in New Jersey is a customer of New Jersey American Water. We've been serving the customers in the state for over a century. And you could, in some form or another, we've been serving the customers in Long Hill since 1905 on the water side. One of our most important assets of our company is certainly our employees. People ask me, you know, I've been with this company for 29 years. Why would you stay with a company for 29 years? Well, it's the people. It is absolutely the people that make this company special. And it's really our most important asset that we bring to the table is the expertise of our people, the dedication of our people. They're continuously monitoring and maintaining and upgrading our facilities to ensure that they're operating efficiently and to ensure that we are meeting all state and regulatory standards. The other important component for us is investing in our infrastructure. How do we make sure we are complying with regulatory standards? Well, it's through investment of our infrastructure. We invest approximately $350 million annually in our infrastructure across the state. Over the last 5 years, for Long Hill, specifically in Long Hill, we've invested $6.5 million in Long Hill alone. As I said, that's mainly in our water assets. And just to give you an idea of the footprint, and I don't know camera-wise how this works out, but I do want to just show our footprint in New Jersey. As Kevin stated, trying to get that on camera there. Okay. The man behind the poster is what I am, right? So we have basically 4 regions, and I'll have Kevin point to them. I'm in we're in the north, what we call the north region, and Long Hill is part of that. So you're one of my customers, and my office is in Short Hills, and I'm responsible for that area. We also have a central operation that kind of butts up against our north operations, and the dividing line with that is Route 78. So we have a central operations that's in it looks like a green highlight. We also have a large operations in our coastal area, and then our southwest area. That's that 650,000 accounts that we manage. So the majority of that is water. You'll see another map to our right that, and I think it's also designated on there, as where are our sewer operations? Well, this map is a combination of our north area and our central area. The stars on that map are all our sewer operations. So we are also a sewer company. We serve 65,000 customers currently in our sewer operations. That's 26 separate sewer systems, 20 wastewater treatment facilities, a multitude of pipe and cleanouts and lift stations go along with those systems. To give you a few examples of the systems we run, one of our most recent acquisitions is Haddonfield Borough, and that was an acquisition of 4,500 water accounts and sewer accounts, and that system is strictly collections. There's no treatment involved in that. As part of that bid, we committed to investing $16 million over 5 years into the infrastructure of in both water and sewer infrastructure in that borough. As we looked at the system and wanted to run it more efficiently, make sure it was compliant, we accelerated that capital spend. We actually spent that $16 million in 2 years. So we were committed to upgrade that infrastructure, and we accelerated it because we saw the need for it. We also run Ocean City. That's a real, we'll call it an environmentally sensitive area. Sewer overflows in that area don't go over very well. Ocean City is a beach town, and if you have a sewer overflow, you're closing beaches, and that doesn't make vacationers very happy. So we spend a lot of time and investment in making sure that that does not happen, that we have alarms and things in place, so when there is a backup, we're on it before it turns into an overflow situation. In that, just to give you an idea of the types of analysis we do on these systems, we recommended an I&I, or we had an I&I study that recommended $85 million of capital work to correct it in Ocean City. It's about 78 miles of sewer main in that town. So we're going to build that into our capital plan. We do the analysis, and then we build it into a capital plan. A few other examples, we run Lakewood Sewer. That's one of the fastest growing communities in the state. About 11,000 accounts currently. We also in that area run Adelphia, which is like Hill Township area. That's about 4,700 accounts. We also, the starred areas on the map, if you could get that, Kevin. Again, you just put it down, right? We run 21 wastewater treatment and collection systems, and those are the stars that, they're not all shown on this, but the majority of them are up in our northern area. It's about 10,000 accounts. The largest being the Hills development, which is Bernards Township and Bedminster, where we have treatment and collections, about 5,300 accounts in that. And it has a treatment plant that averages about 1.4 MGD a day. To put that into perspective for Long Hill, your plant averages 900,000 gallons. So it's relative in size, but a little bit larger than the Long Hill plant. We also have have an O&M contract in the city of Elizabeth. There's a system that's 150 years old. We manage the collections for the city. That's a 40-year contract that they have with us. And I think we're into year 12 of that contract. It's been very successful for us, but very challenging. 150 years old infrastructure, things that need to be replaced, lots of emergency work in a city. And really, the city's very happy with our performance on that. We talked about investment. We also, as far as wastewater facilities, in the last 5 years, invested $68 million in those communities and facilities I just mentioned in the infrastructure of the wastewater systems. And I'm proud to say that through all this, through all the wastewater facilities we manage, we were in full compliance of federal and state regulations, environmental regulations, in 2016. So we have a good track record, a good performance, and a good history of investment for our wastewater facilities. I want to talk now about our commitment to Long Hill Township in this bid. And my first commitment is I talked about how important employees are and why American Water is the right fit and why it would be good for Long Hill Township. We're going to run Long Hill Township just like we run all of our other water and wastewater systems. We're going to give it the same care, the same stewardship, the same dedication, 24/7. And I know we have the employees to accomplish that. We also committed to paying $11 million for this system. We also committed to paying $250,000 to reimburse the township on the transaction reimbursement costs. We committed to investing the capital to lift the sewer ban. And with that, it will create capacity for affordable housing, create capacity for growth. We also committed to making capital improvements on 2 lift stations that were identified in your capital planning process. The Morristown Road and Clover Hill Road pump stations need to be upgraded. There's safety issues. They're old lift stations that need some work. We committed to do that. We've also committed to extend the wastewater system to properties not currently connected to the sewer system, with the goal of having 95% of the existing customers connected to the sewer system within 5 years of the closing of this agreement. So those are the types of things. I know Kevin's going to get into the rates, which is also very important. But I just wanted to talk about our capabilities and what we've committed to in this bid. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. As Tom said, I'm going to very quickly explain this chart that's over here to my left that is a comparison of the township's projected water rates versus what we project our water rates will be going out for the next 15 to 20 years. So you'll see on that chart, the green line on the bottom represents what we, New Jersey American Water, project the Long Hill sewer rates to be over the next near future 15 years. The blue line on top represents what the township's projection is, and that factors in the fact that the township has publicly stated that if the voters, if the voters reject this in November, that they are going to have to double their sewer rates in order to make the necessary investments, including the stuff that we've committed to do, the stuff that their engineers have pointed out need to be done. So as you can see, looking at that chart, for the foreseeable future, the rates are a lot lower under New Jersey American Water stewardship than under the township. We committed in our bid to freeze rates for 3 years. We are committed to that. You'll see the blue line and the red line represents those 5 years and what the rates look like in those 5 years. That is a binding rate commitment, the first 5 years of ownership by New Jersey American Water. And I guess before we open it up to questions on the topic of rates, so our rates are regulated by the Board of Public Utilities. Our water rates, you're all water rate payers, customers in Long Hill. Those rates are regulated by the BPU. New Jersey American cannot just arbitrarily raise those rates. When we want to go in for a rate increase, we have to file what's called a rate case with the BPU. It takes between 9 and 12 months. It's a judicial process before an administrative law judge. The New Jersey ratepayer advocate represents ratepayers in that case, and it is a lengthy process. If the folks in Long Hill vote yes on November 7th, the sewer rates will be handled the same way the water rates are, will be through a rate case in the BPU. And the BPU is charged with protecting the consumer rights and making sure that the investments that we make are prudent. And it's been done like that for, as Tom said, over 100 years. We've been the water company in this town, and that's how it's been done. So with that, I guess, should we open it up to? Oh, yeah, so the charts over here on my right go over the commitments that we've made. There's handouts over there that is the same as that chart. There's also a handout over there that goes into detail about our expertise in sewer in New Jersey. So for those folks that are here, feel free to come grab one of those at any point. No, right on the yeah, up there. So, yeah, so I guess if the deputy mayor is good, we'll open it up to questions.
We've got a second mic.
Second mic. Okay.
I don't need a microphone. I'm from New York. I talk loud. My name is Joe Ferrandino.
Joe, wait a second. Use the mic because we're recording this. And then you don't have to shout.
I'm not shouting. That's why I talk. Okay. One moment here. Let me just get my notes. Okay. The word is saphism, a fallacious argument, especially one used to deliberately to deceive. Okay? And then the rest of it goes, in a country where no law may be voted and no tax may be levied, save the consent of those whom the law is to govern and upon whom the tax is to fall. The public can be robbed only if it is first deceived. Our ignorance is the raw material for every extortion that is participated upon us. And we may be certain beforehand that every saphism in the persecution of an act of plunder, my friends, when you detect a saphism in a petition, get a good grip on your wallet, for you may be sure that this is what the petitioners are aiming at. That's from Bastiat's law. Okay? I raised this question before. How is it that this company that has to make a profit could run our water treatment facility and we can't, and we just want to break even? Why can't we go to the Morris County Improvement Authority, bond the project for whatever millions of dollars you need to do it, and keep that water facility within the township, where if anybody has a gripe, I don't have to worry about a non-government entity to voice my complaints where nobody listens. I can go to my elected officials and my voice will be heard. Either they'll listen or I have the option to vote them out of office. That's my question. How is it that you guys can run it and you gotta make a profit, and our township that just wants to break even can't do it?
So as far as New Jersey American is concerned, you know, we have, as Tom said, we're a large company. We have a lot of efficiencies that we can realize. We also are able to spread our costs across a wider sewer customer base. So if Long Hill did keep the system and made that investment, those costs would be spread out across the 2,800 or so ratepayers in town. With us, we have consolidated rates. We spread those across the 65,000 or so sewer customers that we have in town. So that's one of the factors in that rate chart right there. And that's.
And if I could, I want to be exceedingly clear. Those lines are accurate. They reflect exactly what's going to happen to your water rates if we keep it.
Sewer rates.
I apologize, sewer rates, not water rates. And actually, I'm glad I made that's a Freudian slip there. Water rates are controlled by BPU. You said, who can you go to? The BPU. We won't have any choice but to do that. So actually, in 2018, Kevin had said the rates would go up twice, but actually he misspoke. It's closer to 2.5 times. Immediately. We know that. And this blue line only reflects what we know we have to put into the system. It does not reflect what we don't know. And I can assure you, I have a 15-year-old trailblazer out there, and I wish I knew 18 months ago that I should have sold it then. Because 12 grand later, those are unanticipated or unknown costs. So besides this, when we hand the keys, if you decide to sell, and maybe even the more important issue, it's a transfer of risk. They've got the risk. They can never come back to us for that. When they have to recoup their investment, they go to the BPU. And the BPU has protected you for water rates, for cable rates, and for electric rates. We can't protect you, and you have no recourse. You can vote us out of office when we double your rates. Yeah, you can. But guess what the next group of people that come in here, they're going to do exactly this, plus whatever that unknown risk is. And I will bet dollar to donut, this rate, this line is going to be substantially higher. It understates the cost. So, I've had several years to think about this. And I have decided it would be madness not to sell. But you guys are going to have to make that decision for yourselves, not the 5 people that sit up there. So anybody who doesn't like it, vote no. Deputy Mayor's running the meeting. He gets very upset if I take control.
No, he used some of your 3 minutes.
You got 10 seconds left, Joe.
Did you look at the thing in Washington today? That's at 3 minutes. Joe Conley, Gillette, I have a question. Why was American Water the only bidder? Question for you, and I'll have a question for American Water. Why were they the only bidder?
You can answer it.
Yes, I'm not going to let Brendan speak at all tonight. As far as I'm concerned, there were 2 bids. There was $11 million and either 0 or less than 0. 3 other companies, sewer companies, looked at this and decided not to bid at all. So I wouldn't look at it as only 1 bid. I would look at it as multiple bids. 11 million, 0, and less than 0.
Okay, what is the rule of thumb or law that you need a certain amount of bids in order to entertain any option, any ordinance or any action?
You know what? Can we turn that to Attorney
to Jack?
Sure. In any case of public bidding, even if we get only 1 bid, we have an obligation to award to that low responsible bidder. The fact that there's only 1 bid does not disqualify that bidder.
Okay,
and that's the
Jack.
general rule.
I'll take your word for it, Jack.
I wouldn't mind it, Joe.
You're a wise man, Joe.
Second question. There was a statement made, there's a 3-year freeze rate, and then after that, there's a 5-year contract, as I got your message. How do you know, based on what you say in your literature, that you're going to put on new people who didn't have before? How do you know how you can freeze that rate for 3 years? Whatever that rate is. That's my next question.
Sure.
The short answer is it's up to our company to figure out how we're going to deal with that. But generally, New Jersey American Water goes in for new rates every 2 to 3 years. So, we're not in a rate case right now. We may go into one into the future, but that case will not include anything from Long Hill. So, you know, even if you project out when our next couple of rate cases are, it's going to be 3 years before we even have a rate case that could involve Long Hill, maybe longer. It just really depends when we go in for our next rates. But we have committed to this 3-year rate freeze, and even if we go in for a rate case at a point where we could include Long Hill, we won't. Haddonfield is an example where we also had a rate freeze, and you know, we had the opportunity to go in the middle of a case with them, and we kept them out because we committed to the rate freeze, and we're committing to it here.
Okay, that's good when you got coming up when you need to put some paperwork into the state. How did you estimate what the cost would be for Long Hill Township and what the freeze number would be, if it's gallons or whatever it is, which is my next question. How did you estimate that?
So
Where did the data come that you use to say, in our projection, we'll be able to improve it that much, but look how much lower we are of the towns, their estimate, who are not experts, by the way?
Sure. So on our projection, you know, there's a lot of stuff Tom mentioned that we're committed to doing, and there's a price tag to that stuff. The town actually had a couple of engineering studies commissioned, which laid out a lot of the infrastructure needs that need to happen and put a price tag to those. So, you know, for our projections and our due diligence, we relied on those studies that told us it's going to cost, was it $4 to $6 million to sewer up the part of town that's not currently sewered. There was a price tag with lifting the sewer ban. So we used those numbers to project out what we think our rates are going to be. In the township's RFP, you know, they didn't even require a rate freeze. The requirement of the township was that we can raise rates no more than 3% a year for the first 5 years. So we committed to a 3% rate freeze in the first 3 years, and then in the 4th year, if the calendar works out right, we'll ask for a rate increase at that time.
I'm assuming, looking at that chart, that you know the rate raise that the township charges now.
Yes.
Compared to what, somehow you know that.
Yeah, so hypothetically, let's say November 7th, the township votes yes. It takes generally 6 to 7 months to close these things. So, you know, for hypothetical sake, say we take over the system May the 1st of 18, your rates are going to be the same on May 1st as they were on April 30th. We adopt the rates of Long Hill, and for 3 years, those rates are not going to change. So what you're paying now is what you will pay for the next 3 years.
It's a very important point you just made.
Yes, we adopt the rates of Long Hill.
But then it could exponential. You know what an exponential is? Your exponential is this way.
Yeah,
So after that, when you do all your improvements, which you said you're going to do based on if you get the contract, that would have to be some review of, are we losing money or are we making money? Therefore, then you would say, let's crank it up and add a couple of pennies. You know, we can.
Right, but for the first 3 years, it will be frozen, and this does take into account, that green line takes into account the investment we plan on making. Now, there's things you know you're going to do, and then there's things that come up that you can't anticipate, but that line reflects the infrastructure investments that we know we need to make. But again, we can make those investments, and we have a larger sewer base to spread those costs out over.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Joe.
Young lady. Get on the mic.
You asked my first question. Marie Quinn, I live in Millington. How will we be paying for this? Will this be right now our sewer costs are included in our taxes, correct?
No, you're separately billed.
Oh, the one bill a year?
Yeah.
The 1 bill a year.
That's
So
right.
how will we be paying for this that same way?
New Jersey American Water will switch over to monthly billing. It'll be on the same bill you get for your water. There will be a sewer charge on there. So it's one bill. You can pay both at the same time. That's all the systems that we have around the state. You get one bill that has water and sewer on it.
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask a few questions. And this is coming from somebody who spent several years in rate making for a very, very, very large telephone company. So I know how to throw words around that are intended to mislead. You've talked about spreading the costs around, cost averaging, which means that the $68 million that you've invested elsewhere in the state will be spread into the cost structure of Long Hill, just as the costs to increase our system will be spread to others. So in the first bill that we get, we're going to be paying for Haddonfield's improvements. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, that is a correct statement, but I will also say, I'll give you a water example. About 4 or 5 years ago, New Jersey American Water rebuilt our water treatment plant in Short Hills, which helps serve this town. That was a $78 million project, and the folks in Ocean City are helping to pay for that. If you know, we had to just rebuild that plant for people in Long Hill, the water rates would be a whole lot higher. So yes, we do spread the costs out, and on the water side right now, people in Long Hill pay for improvements we make down south. The people down south pay for the improvements we make up north. But it's a mechanism that the state, and you working for the telephone company should understand, the state recognizes that is spreading the burden of keeping this infrastructure
Some
up.
of our politicians have stated that the costs of improvements, the $1.4 million a year that our engineers anticipated, will not be spread over 2,800 customers, but rather over all the customers that you have in New Jersey. And he's rather emphatic about the fact that our ratepayers in town will not have to pay for that. But what you are doing is confirming the fact that although others are paying for our improvements, we're paying for their improvements, and that is the nature of cost averaging.
Yep, that's the nature of regulated utility.
No, I didn't say that.
Yep.
I said I want to stick to cost averaging. Regulated or not, doesn't matter. Our utility here is regulated because that 100% step increase that's shown on that chart is only going to work to the extent that the 5 folks who sit up here can impose a 100% jump without having their front lawns firebombed. I mean, that's although Mr. Pasurcia says that's going to happen, that's a fact. It isn't really a fact. We've spent 17 years since the sewer ban went into effect and haven't done those kinds of improvements. And now all of a sudden it is a fact that next year we're going to raise the rates to cover those improvements. And I'm not sure that he's correct that that's a fact.
Well, no. And actually, that's a very valid observation that Dennis just made. However, things did change. It is true, for the last 17 years, various township committees, and I think I see one out there now, but various township committees, including when I first got on, was first elected in 2009, we knew what we needed to invest into the sewer system to meet DEP guidelines, et cetera. However, the DEP turned a blind eye to a lot of municipalities as to their violation of DEP regs. However, and I don't think, is it on the website now? It is. The DEP sent us a letter, and they changed the regulations, and the engineers can speak to it better. But I get numbers. That's what I did for a living, just like you. We were allowed 80% of capacity. Now they changed the rule to make it 95% of capacity. So that can, that you said we've been kicking down the road for 17 years, although this committee has invested $4.5 million over the last 3 years. The committees before that invested nothing. So,
no, that's not
well, no,
true.
let me finish.
That's
$4.5 million. We know from our engineer that it's going to cost us $28 million over the next 20 years. Why do I bring up the DEP? Let's circle back. They sent us a letter. There's no more kicking the can. We must provide them with a viable plan and the financing to implement that viable plan by middle of November. So the can that we both know existed for 17 years is now a fire hydrant. There is no more kicking. We must implement what the DEP regulations require. And this will come out more and more as time goes on.
As I recall, and Jack will recall, about 10 or 12 years ago, we had a deadline that if we didn't do something by August something of that year, we were going to be fined $10,000 a day. and we sent some paperwork down there, and that whole thing disappeared. So I can't be sure what the deadlines from the DEP mean.
Well, Dennis, I mean, there's one thing. I mean, I think it probably, I saw it certainly whenever I first joined the committee, that there were certainly storm clouds were beginning to form over that plant down there, and things haven't got better. They've only got worse in terms of DEP are taking a more aggressive posture, I would say. We also, as I mentioned, we don't know the extent, but we know we will have COA obligations, and right now we don't have the capacity to actually meet them, and so it became very apparent to this committee that we had to do something, and we could. Our options were status quo, as I say, which is basically pass on the costs to the residents and increase the rates substantially. And I think what you see there is a kind of an accurate reflection of what we anticipate. But as prudent stewards, we then opened up our thinking and consideration to other options, and this is the best option. As I detailed over meetings and discussions that have taken place over the last 2 years, where I think we've done very thorough due diligence on this, and we have come to the conclusion as a committee that an outright sale would be another viable option. And as a viable option, again, it's not. This is too momentous a decision for the five of us to make, and so we've decided to if we move forward with the ordinance on the 26th, to turn that to the residents of the township to decide. And what we're doing here is really the first of an informational type of meeting where we can all become educated. And so I don't want to get bogged down too much in this sort of thrust and parry of arguments about what happened when and how. We are facing a tough situation, and right now we have two options, and that's what's being presented, and people have to become educated and make a decision, and then in November 7th go in and pull the appropriate lever.
Thank you. Now, can I ask part two of my rate question? Part two of my rate question is the water rates that we pay, along with 600,000 other water customers, those are statewide average rates, yes or no?
So we have a statewide rate, which Long Hill is a part of. We do have other rates in our tariff for systems that we've acquired over time, but for the most part, probably 60%, 70% of our water customers pay the same rate.
Okay, now with regard to the sewer rate.
Yes.
I'm assuming that since you're guaranteeing to preserve our rates levels and our rate structure, including presumably the fixed charge and the senior discount and so on, yep. I'm assuming that you cannot rate average us.
No, so
Will you ever do that after the 5-year situation?
So eventually, the goal of the BPU and companies like ours is to have one statewide unified rate. So if Long Hill comes into the family and goes into our tariff, they're going to have their own rate tariff. As we go into the future, yes, eventually, I mean, you see those lines, our statewide rate now is, for sewer, is $700 a year, give or take. It's going to take a long time for us to get up there. I'll give you one quick example. It's on the water side, but it's a good example. Almost 10 years ago, New Jersey American Water bought a company called South Jersey Services. At the time, their rates were about 40% of our statewide rate 10 years ago. 10 years later, I think we've gone through 3 rate cases. They're still not close to our statewide rate. And the reason being is that the BPU and our company, we have no tolerance for rate shock. We don't want to take you from X to Y in one jump. We step it up, which is why you see on that chart it looks like steps, because it's a smaller increase every few years.
Now, you talk about ultimately we might go into a statewide averaging pool, and yet your response at tab 18 says it will be our intent to ensure that reasonable and increases for the town's residents in effect, or let me back up a sentence. Ultimately, the Board of Utilities' position on rate consolidation will dictate which end of the range a particular system's rate increase will be. That implies, and again, I'm reading between the lines because I've done this writing before myself. Reading between the lines, it sounds like you do intend to keep separate rates, and we could be at the 4% end of the range forever rather than being in a statewide consolidation. Is that the intent of the writing in this paragraph?
I did not write that paragraph, but I mean, like I said, our goal is to have a statewide rate. We feel that, and the BPU, feels that it spreads the burden and it's a good thing. But it's going to be a while before we would get there because we're not just going to raise the rates.
So you're not going to
to
stand behind the language in this.
If it's in there, I'll stand behind it.
Dennis, I think if it's in there, they'll stand behind it. But I have to thank you for your questions. But I know there are a lot of other questions here.
I am
Thank you. Am I on? Okay, thank you. I'm Neil Lorber from Millington, and I'm glad I'm going to adjust my planned comments to the actual circumstances of tonight's meeting as they have formed, as they have come to pass. And I have 3 points to make, and believe it or not, they all do, to some degree at least, involve the company and pertain, at least in part, to the company. And my remarks are key tonight because the Township Committee on July 26th will be voting and approving the wording of the November election question, the question about the sewer sale on November's ballot. So I have to do my input tonight, whether it's 40% of the committee or 100% of the committee. I can correct you there. We will have, whenever we are opening the ordinance up to its second reading, there will be a public comment period then, whenever you will be able to come up and present your discussion to the entire Township Committee. Oh, yeah, but then 3 minutes after the meeting, you fellows are going to vote on the issue.
That's what
well, I want you to have time to digest new ideas and new propositions.
Well, we can vote yes and no.
We're all human. We digest many things besides food. Okay, sorry I have to be the only one laughing at my own joke. Anyway, the wording of the statement that is the major part of the ballot question, that is my first point or issue. The word sewer is barely used. The word wastewater is heavily used. Now, people, they know the matter at issue as their sewer system. They've known it for years as their sewer system. My bill and their sewer bill for June of this year, 2017, reads sewerage, sewer usage. The word appears twice. The word wastewater has never appeared on any Long Hill bill. I know the colloquialisms of the townspeople. They have always thought, and think to this day, in terms of the word sewer and sewer system. What I urge you, what I urge the committee to do is to place the word sewer in parentheses every time the word wastewater appears on the November ballot. I think this is absolutely critical. I think that the lack of that word invalidates the question on the ballot. People have to know what they're voting about.
Yeah, I certainly take what you say, but if you look at the explanation and the interpretive statement, we do call it the sewer utility. So it's just the situation isn't as dark as you say. But please,
disagree.
I think please go on to your next point. I mean, I was saying that we have taken that into consideration.
It's such a simple thing to just add one word in parentheses. Well, you know, we can't twist your arm. That's part of the problem. But there are those who will not recognize the question on the ballot as valid because of this issue. And my second point now, because of another issue. The reference to the Board of Public Utilities as the rate regulator, it really doesn't belong in the ballot question. A ballot question, we all know, we don't have to be lawyers or statewide politicians.
I need to stop you there, because the actual what people will be voting on, and I probably should have read this earlier, but the question is, shall the Township of Long Hill in the County of Morris, New Jersey be authorized to sell its wastewater utility system to New Jersey American Water Company, Inc. for the sum of about $11 million? So that is the only question. That is the meets and bounds of that question that's presented. That's what people vote on. And in any there's an interpretive statement, as I was saying. In the first sentence, it says, if a majority of the legal voters in the township vote yes, the Township of Long Hill will sign an agreement of sale with New Jersey American Water Company, Inc. for the sewer utility in the amount of $11 million. And so I think it certainly goes some way to meet your first point, but I think your second point is erroneous, because the Board of Public Utilities is not mentioned in the question that people will be voting on.
You say it isn't, but I say it is. It's part of the statement. It says that the Board of Public Utilities will be approving the rates from time to time. That's right in the statement. In fact, it constitutes 23% of the statement by word count, and guess who counted every word? Yours truly. And it's just not appropriate, because it's really a sales pitch built into the statement, and you're not supposed to make a sales pitch and put the sales pitch on the ballot.
I'm confused. How is that a sales pitch? Let me finish, and then I'll turn the mic back over to you. My electric bill, my water bill, and my gas are all regulated by BPU. Me personally, I love that it says that. So I'm confused as to how that's a sales pitch. It's a fact.
Well, look, we're here tonight talking about a very big subject. When it comes to the ballot statement, you have to summarize the essentials of the whole panorama of the subject. And to use 23% of that statement to sell it, referencing the Board of Public Utilities, which barely, thinly regulates. I mean, they provide a 2 to 4% range of allowance in terms of rate increases permitted. But in any case, it doesn't really belong there. But,
What's your next point?
I mean, we can.
yeah, okay. But you know that the word sewer appears once in the statement. And it's a shame. I mean, I'll confess right now, I will not personally, I'm speaking only for myself, recognize that question on the ballot as valid. You know, I'll go to my grave thinking that. It's not going to change it, but, you know, I'm speaking for myself. Okay, now the third point. I don't think I'm taking too much time, really.
If you could,
Break that, you pay for it.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, just in the interest of time, we have a number of other questions. So if you could be quick in your in your third point.
I'll be as quick as Dennis, your friend.
Well, I actually.
Sorry, Dennis. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. Dennis is my ex-friend because I took the microphone from him, so I don't want two ex-friends tonight.
Okay, I think you're giving me a hard time, but so what? Okay, my last point, and I'm glad that company people are here, as I mentioned, this last point. We sell, if we sell the sewer system, we're ending the careers and ruining the years and years invested in retirement pensions of several or many workers. I can
stop you. I can stop you there because because we actually have agreed to look at the.
You have to let me have my.
I just wanted to.
Degree or whatever unholy.
I wanted to help you.
You know, we're ruining people's lives. I hear there's 4 employees of the so-called sewer or wastewater department. I've also heard there are 12. I don't know how many there are, but ethically, the township people do not want to destroy workers' lives as a result of this sale. So please let us hear over the months to come what plans will the township make and the New Jersey American Water Company make to provide continuing employment for these poor people.
Actually, you don't even need to wait over the coming months because I think we can actually speak to that tonight.
So that's a very good question, actually. There are 4 employees that are identified as sewer utility employees in town. We have committed to interviewing all 4 of them for open positions. We plan on, if the town proceeds with the referendum after the 26th, we plan on having an informational meeting with those employees to kind of explain to them some of the benefits of working for the company, explain them the timeline of when we would plan on interviewing them. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to start interviewing folks before we own anything. But we're going to have an open dialogue with those 4. And as an example, Haddonfield, which is the last system we bought, they had 6 employees. We offered all 6 of them jobs. And I think it was 2 of them ended up getting relocated within the municipality, within the DPW, and the other 4 came to work for us. So, you know, I think those 4, once we interview them, if we make job offers to them, I think they'll be very happy with the types of benefits that New Jersey American offers besides the health and the 401k, just the upward mobility. I mean, we're a big company. We like giving people the opportunity to move within the company, to get positions of increasing responsibility. We're in 49 of the 50 states in one way or another. You know, if folks want to move around, we have a new president in New Jersey American Water who was out in California for 8 years. So, you know, for the folks that want to, you know, move in their career, a company like ours offers those opportunities. And, you know, at the appropriate time, the 4 folks who work for the utility will learn those benefits.
And that also was a source of concern for the township committee as we were embarking on this on this process, and something that we were very happy to learn of the policies from New Jersey American.
It's pretty clear that the deputy mayor can only see the right side of the room. So what I'd like to suggest is you start moving to the left side.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Joyce Dapperfinney from Gillette. I have a very different kind of question, and some of it's because of a personal thing. But some of us live on streets that have septic systems, and unfortunately, I live on Mountain Avenue, and several of us have septic tanks. I mean cesspools, sorry, which we can't sell our house until we put in a septic tank under the law right now. So I guess, and the personal part is that next month we were supposed to have a septic system put in. We've been approved by the town and all that. And so my fear is that I put this in, and I want to know, how will you decide what streets will be getting the sewers first? I'm not saying I don't want a sewer, but I certainly don't want to put in a septic tank if we were, for $40,000, if we're on that list. And I'm sure there's other people in town who are facing, they know they have to hook up and what, so.
So I think that's a great question, and unfortunately, I don't have the greatest answer for you right now. We're committed to sewering up 95% of the town within 5 years. We still have to do a whole bunch of engineering on our end, to put it quite plainly, to figure out what streets make the most sense for us to sewer up, which streets can handle a sewer without having to install a big pump station, gold-plated, this, that, and the other thing. So we are going to study that. We are committed to the 95%. At this point, though, our engineers are going to take a good look at and figure out what makes the most sense to get sewered up. I can say, so there is a ordinance on the books that if you do have a septic system installed within so many years of a sewer line running in front of your house, that you will not be required to hook up to the sewer for so many years.
Do you know how many years it is?
Yeah, that's on the that's an ordinance. Yeah, I think it's 20 years. So if you have a septic system installed within, and that I'm not sure, I think 3 or 5 years of the pipe running in front of your house, you are not required to hook up to the sewer. Okay. And I'll turn in.
Because I know, and a few other people have had. There's two houses for sale on the street. One that did not sell because it has a cesspool, and another one that needs a new septic tank. And I'm sure, and we have wetlands below us, so. Before we go ahead and put this investment in, I wanted to know what the likelihood was.
I wish I could stand up here and tell you, yes, we're going to run sewer down your street, or no, we're not going to run sewer down your street. We're just not at that point. It's a similar discussion as with the employees. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Right.
Because if it gets voted down, then there's a lot of, time and energy that was wasted in figuring something out that's never going to come to fruition. Yeah, I can give you my card, and I'm the government affairs guy, so I'm not the right person, but I will definitely make sure that you're connected to the right person as we move forward. It's a huge decision.
And it just we happen to see the notice.
Yeah, and we're probably not going to have that answer before November or even after November. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
In 5 years.
I can guarantee you there either will or won't be sewer in front of your house in 5 years.
But we'll have a little reprieve, you said.
Hi, Angelo Quanzo, also from Gillette. I had a question also again about the connection to the non-sewered properties. Talked about 95% of existing houses in 5 years. Does that mean 95% of the existing houses at the date of closing are going to be sewered, or 95% of the existing houses that are existing in 5 years from now are going to be sewered? Because if we bring in like a lot of
it's as of closing, so it's 95% of the existing houses as of closing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have two questions. I'm Gloria from Sterling.
Gloria, would you mind speaking up?
Oh, sure. Gloria Aranio from Sterling. I have two questions. Can you name a town, is it Hatfield or a town that's similar to us that you did purchase a wastewater system? And what did you purchase it for?
So
how much did you purchase?
Yeah, Haddonfield's the last one we purchased. Haddonfield is water and wastewater. So, and that was for $28.5 million, which, to put it in perspective, It was about $3,000 a customer is what we paid in Haddonfield.
You're just buying the wastewater in our town, correct?
Yeah, because we already do
so
the
how
water. So in Long Hill, our bid, $11 million, is approximately $4,000 a customer. So on a per customer basis, we're actually paying more for Long Hill than we did in Haddonfield.
Okay, and how many years did you purchase Hatfield?
That was, we closed 2 years ago.
Okay.
So 2015.
So those towns, okay, not that example, a town that you purchased where you passed the 3-year mark or the freeze mark, what was the percentage of the increase?
Again, that was on the water side. So before Haddonfield, our last purchase was South Jersey Services, I believe, and that was about 9 years ago. It was just on the water side, and like I said, we've had 3 rate cases since then. I can't give you the percentages off the top of my head, but they went from being about 60% of our rates to about 20% of our rates in the 10 years. I can take your name afterward, after this, and send that information to you, though.
I just wondered, 2%, like he's saying, our rates are going to go up 50%. If we don't do this, or 100%. I don't know. What did you say? 300% our rates are going to go up. If we don't do this, what would our rates go after 3 years? I'm just kind of trying to figure out, because you're going to put capital improvements in our town.
Absolutely.
So
yeah,
eventually all those costs are going to get trickled down to us, correct?
Yeah, we can provide that information to you, what South Jersey Services looked like in the rate cases since we took them over. We'd be happy to do that.
Okay, and then my next question is for Brendan or Guy. You're going to net about $6 million in this sale, from what I understand?
No, actually, the 11 is we had discussions with the DCA, and the $11 million has to be used to pay down the debt,
right.
the municipal debt, and so I believe our municipal debt is around $14 million, and so the $11 million would go to pay a substantial portion of that debt, but we would still have some remaining.
And then what is the remaining balance? What do you plan on using that for?
I'm sorry, what do we?
If there is a balance, what are you planning on using that for?
The balance? No, but there isn't a balance. It's
11 million. 100% of it's going to the debt.
100%.
Yeah, no, I know. But so 100% of it's going to the debt of the town.
Exactly. Yep.
And actually, that is exactly the right question. So if I could break it down, it's $5.5 million sewer. What is the 14 comprised of? $4 million is related to sewer. And the rest. Okay, so it's roughly 4.
And what's the rest of it?
Sewer-related debt.
And then what's the other debt? Just
and it's general debt for various issues.
Okay. The remaining $3 million is debt.
You got $7 million in a slush fund. You use $4 million for the sewer.
Joe, you're not listening.
Well, explain to me, where the other $7 million's going?
If you stop speaking, I will explain it to you. We have $14 million in debt as a municipality. $4 million of that is related to the sewer system or the wastewater system, depending on which you prefer. We have an additional $10 million worth of debt for fire trucks.
And anybody who wants that, and actually I would like to have it, so if I could respectfully ask our CFO if he can break down what the debt is. So I agree with Gloria's question. I agree with Joe's question. It would be nice to know exactly what the debt is related to.
But once we run up another $14 million worth of debt, what are we going to sell off next? Because basically, I come from the pawn shop neighborhood back in Brooklyn. What are we going to sell next? And how did this debt grow to $14 million to start with? And what are we going to be willing to sell next to pay off this runaway debt?
Just to be clear, a town of our size having $14 million of debt is relatively common.
I don't receive that because I live in a tiny community in Pennsylvania, and we got over $2 million in our reserve account, another $2 million in our operating account, and we got trucks and fire trucks and DPW, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just.
I'll answer that simply. The cost per student for public education in New Jersey dwarfs the cost per student
for public education in Pennsylvania. Our educational system also is far superior to the educational system in Pennsylvania. We pay for it. So
Yeah, I mean,
that's my answer.
I mean, I believe is it 67%? It's 67 cents on every tax, 62 cents on every tax dollar goes to the school system and education.
This ties into that affordable fair housing stuff. So in other words, once the sewer is built, then we can count on more affordable, what do you call it? Fair share, that's the new scheme word?
Yeah.
Fair share housing. And so then, not building this is to our advantage.
No, it's
because we don't want that.
it's actually not to our advantage. The fair share obligation is coming our way, whether we have it or not, and we will be forced into making the improvements that are needed in order to satisfy that obligation. That's just the way that it is. And do you agree or not agree? But I'm sorry, it is. No.
Bergen Community College, and they're fighting this. And why this town doesn't fight it, I don't know.
Okay, but that's a conversation for another day. You've been waiting very patiently.
Yeah, Roseanne from Millington. I'm sure you guys Long Hill did a nice study, what it would take to bring the sewer system into compliance, right? In there, you probably figured out how long it would take for us to get there. How long would it take for the township to keep the sewer system and get into compliance, state compliance?
The engineering report, if you're bored tonight and you can't fall asleep, is on the town website. But the short story is this. Our engineer did exactly what you just asked. It's 20 years, $28 million.
Okay, and have the cost, great. All right, but as we learned at the senior meeting, you really guys want to keep the seniors in town because we don't have kids in the school system, a little advertisement there. Once we pay that off, that $28 million, we don't have to pay costs for them because they have to make a profit. We don't, as a township, have to make a profit with the school sewer system. So after we pay it off in 28 years, it may last us another 150 years because the township is 150 years old.
I'm not an
last
engineer.
year.
I'll let the engineer speak to that, but I can categorically say that is not true.
Well, yeah.
There is no way.
But if you project it out, how long would it take us to pay it off? And then it would downturn because we're not going to pay the same amount. Once we pay it off, we pay zero. It drops down. It never goes up.
No, what I said earlier, and I will stand by what I said, that blue line is the $28 million.
Right.
That's the risk we know.
Right.
And I am absolutely certain there are risks we don't know. And that's what concerns me most, is the risks we don't know. So if the residents vote to sell, we take the keys out of whoever's pocket. I think it's in Tom's pocket. He might have it with him tonight. And we hand it to them. And whatever risk comes down, or whatever issues come down the pipe, that's theirs.
Yeah, but that goes back to Dennis's thing that fair sharing, we're going to be paying for somebody else who will be paying for us. But if we just pay for us over the 28 years, it projects down that we don't have to pay much or anything. Has anybody looked at that?
What's the question?
Has anybody looked at projecting it out? So what would it take us to pay that off, that $28 million? And then project it down for the next years that we pay less?
Yes, our CFO can do that analysis for you.
Okay.
But I want to be clear. That analysis is only that. It will not include what we don't know.
True. That's okay. We don't know. Daily living, we don't know everything. But it should be less.
You know, I want to say something. I love the apprehension. I love the opposition because that's why we have 5 months or whatever it is for. I just said I was good in math and I can't add months. We have 4 months for all of us to educate, to learn about it. So I appreciate that there's apprehension in this room. I appreciate that there's outright opposition because when the facts come out over the next 4 months, I think most voters will conclude it would be madness not to sell. Well, you know what? Actually, and I apologize. What wasn't said before? Part of the reason, you know, we have an awful lot of conditions, and that was a question I had. Can I ask a question? How much has NJ American committed financially to Long Hill based on the conditions that the township committee included? Do we have a rough idea of what that number is?
We committed to investing about $2 million a year. So certainly, we have the $11 million bid price, and what went into that is the capital investments we'll need to make to lift the sewer ban, the capital investments we need to make to extend the sewer, the capital investments we need to make to the plant and lift stations. So those are all built into our bid.
And Tom, I apologize, you left out one thing, in order to, and also to respect the DEP regulations, which is the big one.
Yep.
And committeeman,
And future DEP regulations, I said something about unknown, that's unknown. And last I checked, the DEP hasn't become softer over the last 30 years.
Committeeman Becerra, we all want to hang on your every word, and so we would appreciate it if you would use the microphone so that we can do that.
Now, for those who don't realize, Brendan is from Scotland, and on the way here, he said, Guy, I'm going to make the introduction if you don't make it here on time. So I said, why don't you tell a joke? And Brendan pointed out that Scottish people are not known for their humor. But I think you've proven us.
I've just proven them wrong.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Please.
Hi, Rob Anthony from Sterling. Two questions, please. The first is, there's usually a set tie-in fee if you have septic and want to tie into the sewer. Not so much the contractor fee that I'm going to have to pay should I choose, but the fee to the town or to New Jersey American. And the second question is, in Warren, New Jersey, they put in sewer for I think 90 to 95% of the town. But even those with septic pay the sewer fee. Are those of us who have septic going to pay the sewer fee, even if we keep septic?
Answer to your first question is 0. New Jersey American does not charge connection fees. So if there's a main in front of your house, all you'll have to do is pay to get the plumbing in your house and a service run out to the curb. That's it. You don't have to pay to connect to us. The second question with Warren, we, as your sewer company, we're only going to charge people who get our service. We're not going to, if you have a septic, there's no reason for you to be paying sewer.
I agree.
When are you required to sign up for, or are you required if you have a septic system? I thought there was a 3 to 5 time frame I heard.
If you have a septic system, that's more of a legal question.
Yes, it's by local ordinance, which could always be changed, but it provides that when a public or private sewer system is available at any time or becomes available within 200 feet of a building, connection must be made to the public or private system within 120 days of receipt of notice from the Township Committee or the Board of Health. But as the people from New Jersey American discussed earlier, there's also a deferral provision that if you installed a septic system during the sewer ban, which is from 2000 through whatever date they get the sewer ban lifted in the future, which is probably 3 or 4 years at best, if you install a septic during that period, you will get a 20-year deferral.
Well, our ordinance would be out of effect with the sale, right? Our ordinance would disappear.
No, because it talks about a public or private system. But the Township Committee can always change the ordinance if, in consultation with New Jersey American, they thought, it made sense to change it. That's the existing ordinance.
We could require a household to hook up to a private company's service.
Correct, because, and I think the rationale, Dennis, is for health reasons, and that's why they mentioned the Township Committee or the Board of Health. So I think the idea is to get as many people sewered as possible. I know DEP frowns on septic systems and would certainly prefer public sewer systems.
Just a mathematical question. Guy, you said it was $28 million for us as a town to resolve the problem. The gentleman from American Water said it would cost them $2 million a year for 5 years to resolve our problems. That's $10 million versus 28. How come they can resolve our problem for $10 million and we can't?
That's not what the case is. Our $28 million is $1.4 million over 20 years.
Okay.
What they will commit to is $2 million a year over 5 years. After that, all the other things that must be done, they will have to do. Not because they committed to it, they will be required to do it by the DEP.
And they will charge us.
They will charge us exactly what they committed to in the bid, which I think was roughly 9.3% over 6 years. I don't know the exact number. 9.3% over 6 years, de minimis, and then what the BPU allows them to charge. Did I have that number right?
Yeah, so what we committed to is binding. In the first 5 years, we've committed to invest $2 million a year over the first 5 years. Beyond that, we're going to make the investments that are necessary. There's no binding commitment to any set number, but we're definitely going to make the necessary investments. And, in that 5 years, we're going to keep our commitment to sewer up 95% of the town, as Tom said, to expand the capacity and lift the sewer ban. We're going to get all that done in 5 years, at a minimum of $2 million a year. It may cost us more to do it, but we've committed to at least $2 million a year.
Right, so therefore, the cost of improving our township is going to cost you more money than $10 million.
Well, over the long haul, the systems are old.
Yeah.
So, we invest $1 million a day right now on our water and sewer systems across the state.
But you do the investment for a profit, and if we did it as Long Hill, it wouldn't be for a profit, it would be for citizens.
Yeah,
where it's a no-profit gain if the township keeps it, is what I'm trying to say.
That is true. The big differentiator, though, in my mind, is that if Long Hill did it on their own, it's 2,800 accounts that are going to have to cover that cost. When we do it, we can spread it across our 65,000 sewer accounts, which keeps costs lower for everybody. That, to me, is one of the biggest differentiators in this discussion.
But that would be a cost forever to me, plus any additional cost every year that you want to tack on to any resident in town.
Well, we don't just tack on costs. It goes through the rate case, and it's no different than the water bill that you pay every month. It's the same. The way we calculate our water rates and the way we bill you for water, it's going to be the exact same as we do for sewer. So right now, your water bill, our average water bill in New Jersey is about $52 a month. Our last rate increase was, I think it was about 4%, 4 or 5%. So on average, it went up about $2 a month per customer, and we invested $750 million statewide for that. So, it was a 4 or 5% increase, and we had invested $750 million statewide, including that treatment plant in Short Hills, which was $78 million.
So to bring Long Hill Township up to code, your investment to Long Hill is not $10 million. How much is it really?
We've all
you
I
had to
can say.
protect that.
Yeah, we've committed to $2 million a year for 5 years. As I said to a couple other questions, we still have to take a good look at what needs to be done. They have these engineering studies. We generally agree with what the Remington and Vernick and the other engineers said, but our engineers are going to take a fresh look at it, and we're going to we'll do a comprehensive plan for Long Hill. We'll figure out what needs to be done immediately, what can wait in the medium term, and what can wait long term, on top of the stuff that comes up that you just can't plan for. Nobody knows if one of the pump stations is just going to stop working tomorrow.
But I think people in the township would be more comfortable knowing what is the true cost of you doing it versus the township doing it. You're giving us a 5-year projection of $10 million, but that's not the long term.
Well, this is our best estimate of what we project the rates to be based on the investments that we project that need to be made. again, you can only project so far, you can only predict so much. But this is as accurate as I think we can get at this point with it, and definitely those first 5 years, that's locked in stone. Beyond that, it's just our best guess. Because you just, as the deputy mayor and the councilman have said, you don't know what you don't know. You can only predict so much.
Pardon my apprehension, and nothing against you or your company, but just recently in Hill Township, they came up with this new tax grab where you had to have your house assessed and the inspector had to come in your house, and the story was that it doesn't necessarily mean your taxes are going to go up. We just want to change the rate of the assessment, which in fact equaled that my taxes went up. So if I have a hard time believing what you're telling me, this is why. Once bitten, twice shy. There is no reason why Morris County Improvement Authority can't bond this project. They bonded all the solar projects throughout Morris County. There is no reason why they can't bond this and the sewer system stay within the town.
If I could, Jack, I'll answer that. The municipal budget did not go up other than what the school budget went up, and we were, I think, at 1.9%. Your taxes went up, okay, so did mine. But one thing is guaranteed. If our taxes went up, somebody went down. Absolutely guaranteed.
Well, I want to be.
I'm sure there are some in this room.
Nobody's admitting to it. Do we have any other questions? George.
I'm James Bride. I live in Myersville, and I was listening to the lady behind me who was asking about the two lines on your chart here. One line is the township's rates, right, over the course of so many years. And the other line is the bottom line, the green one, is what the water company projects because they spread the rates out over a longer base. But the lady behind me seemed to think that at the end of the 20 or 28 years, then the sewer system is all complete. It's all rejuvenated, and then we don't have the same costs. It seems to me, from the materials I've read and looking at these lines, that the upper line is the absolute minimum that we're going to pay. But more importantly is at the end of 28 years, that doesn't stop. The rates are going to continue to go, whether they stay steady or whether they go up, because the sewer system is going to continue to deteriorate as it gets older. Am I right? You don't pay anything off from this, from that top line. Nothing gets paid off.
You're correct. And keep in mind, the cost of money, this part, which the residents will have paid, they'll never get it back. So when you include the cost of money, the time value of money, we will never catch up to the savings that happen here. Never.
Joe, it's been 10 minutes since we heard from you. It's about time.
Promise this is my last. Joe Conley from Gillette, previous of Millington. You had a vote on the last meeting. You had 5 votes yes. I didn't read the last page of the ordinance, so I didn't know you were going to have a second. So we're a little behind the times. However, on that second vote, how many votes, and you can ask the lawyer if you want, Jack is right there, how many votes are needed by a township committee to pass the ordinance?
3 votes are needed by the township committee to pass the ordinance. But remember,
Isn't it full for something that's capital?
no, because this is just, remember, to put it to referendum. So this vote won't be whether to sell the plant, it will be whether to have the public question.
But if you read the last line before you get to the public question, if it's a yes vote, they'll sell it. So it's academic.
Well, they're going to honor the vote of the public. Yes.
Yes, okay. So that's, it needs 4 votes as far as I'm concerned. Only reason I'm bringing up the subject is that the people who are listening to this tonight, right? If they want to know how the representative is 5 people up there, call them up, find out what the story is, and maybe we won't need a referendum in November. Thank you.
But legally, Joe, I understand what you're saying, but legally only 3 votes are required. There are very few ordinances that require 4. Bond ordinances are the ones that come to mind.
That might be an interesting law review article, nevertheless, Joe. So,
It seems we've now heard from everybody that wanted to speak, so anybody who wants to ask another question, feel free. Unlike a township committee meeting where public comment is kind of limited to 3 minutes, we're here, they're here. I think they have to come up from Voorhees, so I think they're here for as long as you guys want to ask questions.
What percentage of our town is currently sewered?
88%.
And that's households, correct?
I don't know how to answer.
80% of residences, 100% of businesses.
Okay. Can I, so 88% of residences and 100% of businesses, of ratables.
Okay, is an apartment a residence?
Yes.
So if we put in conservatively 50 apartments in the Valley Road redevelopment, 100 at Tifa, and all 150 are sewered, then that'd be 150 more residences.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about 150.
I had a question about the ordinance that you talked about with the deferral provision for 20 years. Is that something that's part of the contract with New Jersey American where it couldn't be changed without approval by New Jersey American?
It is not part of the contract with New Jersey American. It's just the township ordinance.
Okay.
So it could be changed.
Because what I was kind of thinking about a situation where maybe the sewer ban gets lifted and the ordinance is limited to a 20-year deferral. If it's in the sewer ban time, maybe it came in after the sewer ban, but before you get the line to your house, then the line gets to your house, then you have to, you know what I'm saying, in that window period after the sewer ban gets lifted, but before, and then they decide to run the sewer line in front of a house with a septic system. That's why. So that could be changed. It's not something that's going to
It could be changed. And from listening to New Jersey American, I got the feeling they don't want to force people with a new operating septic system to necessarily tie in, but that I can't speak for them.
Yeah, I would agree with Jack. I mean, we'll definitely, adhere to the provisions of the ordinance. Having said that, part of our, as we put our bid together, one of the factors was the existing ordinance. So, that went into, the fact that we offered $11 million was that there was this ordinance in place that as we run pipe for people who do not fall within those exclusions that they would hook up.
And I think the 20-year period was arrived at because that's the anticipated useful life of a new septic system.
Yes, let me stand up. Neil Lorber from Millington. I'm thinking back a couple of decades at least to what was and probably still is called the Javits spill after Senator Jacob Javits, where a person can work for one company and there may be a 10-year minimum, but after they collect 10 years of retirement participation in one company, they can move to another company, and because of the Javits federal bill, carry their 10 years of retirement credit from the old company to the new company. Can you throw any light on that, and can you perhaps relate it to New Jersey American Water's situation with the current employees of our township sewer system.
I don't know if there's anybody here qualified to talk to that.
We don't have a human resources person here, but I think I could speak in general terms that new employees to New Jersey American Water fall into our 401k system, not the pension system. New Jersey American Water got rid of, changed the pension system. Actually, it was right before I started. I just missed out on it. But what that means is if you started working for us today, you know, we contribute to your 401k. You have the opportunity to contribute to your 401k. And after, I think at our company, you're vested after 3 years in the 401k. Don't quote me on that because I'm not in human resources. But once you're vested in the 401k, if you decide to leave, you take that money with you. You know, it's yours. And I'll just stop there before my human resources people watch this and yell at me.
I don't know if there's other parts of town, but I do know on Valley Road, there's an easement behind the houses for the sewer lines. So because of that, if you own the sewer lines, will you be getting us a discount on taxes for the property taxes? Because you have to come to our property and fix your equipment.
I'd be pleased to answer that question. NJ American Water, if they were if the residents were to vote yes, NJ American Water becomes a business in town and they will pay property taxes.
But would they ease the people on Valley Road? It was a smart thing that this township did. They didn't put it on Valley Road. They ran the sewer lines behind houses on Valley Road. So since their property is now on someone's property and underneath the land, would they get a reduction?
Yeah, this might be a question for Jack.
Before your legal people yell at you, why don't we let our legal people talk?
No, because the easement's already there. It's just the township holds the easement at this point in time. You know, and all those sewer lines and easements were placed at the rear property line so that they weren't within the building setback anyway. And I'm not sure Tom could answer the question better, but I don't know how often the town's ever had to go in to work on sewers in people's backyards in the easement areas. I don't think it's... Right. But in any event, the bottom line is the easement's already there. And if it has any effect on your property values, which it probably doesn't, because most everybody has easements, utility easements along the front of their property. If it does, it's already reflected or should be reflected in your assessment. Yeah.
Do they have to rewrite all those easements?
No, I'm sure they're to successors. I'm sure the easements are to successors, the township or its successors. Right.
Attorney Pigeon, don't go too far. You're my second question.
That's Mr. Aronowitz. I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Charles Aronowitz, Millington. My first question, I was sitting at home watching all of you with your intelligent questions. My first question is for New Jersey American Water. Based on our evaluation of our sewer plant at $25 million, you're going to pay us $11 million. That's 44 cents on the dollar. I'd like to know why such a drop, and then compare what you offered Haddonfield for their combined water and sewer. And I read your proposal where you're giving all this money back to Haddonfield. Are you going to give us money back based on the 44 cents on a dollar? I didn't hear it.
I can
must
answer
be
it
on my
again.
way to the meeting.
I could answer it again. So, you know, we did talk about the fact that we're paying $11 million, and yes, there was that appraisal out there of $25 million, but that did not take into account any of the conditions that the township was placing on the prospective bidders, including lifting the sewer ban, expanding capacity, piping up 95%, and coming into compliance with DEP regulations. When you factor all of that in, you know, our folks, our financial folks, our engineers, you know, $11 million is where we landed.
You didn't answer the Haddonfield question.
The Haddonfield question, so, and that's another one we talked about. So Haddonfield, we bought the water and wastewater system for $28.5 million. And because it was water and wastewater, it's not really fair to compare what we're doing here and what we did there. I think a more accurate comparison is the fact that in Haddonfield, we paid about $3,000 per customer connection.
Versus 4, right.
Versus 4. So, and as far as money we gave back, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. I don't know that we gave any money
Well, when I
back
read
to
your
Haddonfield.
proposal,
Our Haddonfield proposal or
the
Long Hill?
proposal
Okay.
here,
Okay.
you said you're doing things faster.
Yeah, we're committed to doing
All right, so
things in 5 years.
what was the assessed value of Haddonfield?
I don't think they got an assessment. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know.
If I could circle back to your first
No,
question.
you don't need to answer. That's okay.
Okay.
All right, no, I'm going to circle back to the
No,
first question.
you don't need to answer. I got a next question.
All right, I'll wait till you finish.
Thank you. We've got an opportunity to speak here tonight, right?
Carry on.
Thank you. Attorney Pitchen, question for you.
Yes, sir.
If I'm the member of the Township Committee, or we've got 5 members, and some of the members are Seward, some are not Seward, are they biased in their opinions of what they want to be done if I'm not Seward?
In my opinion, no. In the legislative context, the members of the Township Committee often have conflicts. For instance, whether to raise the taxes, they all have that conflict. So I don't think the fact that a member of the Township Committee is either presently Seward or not Seward would disqualify those who are not Seward.
That's your opinion, or?
That's my opinion. That's all I can give you.
Okay.
But I think, and if it said, I've got to, part of the proposal was that they have to sewer Brendan's house. You know, that would be disqualifying. But the fact they just said 95% of the town, there's no guarantee that any particular street, as they discussed earlier, is going to be included in the expansion.
Okay. We've been on a sewer ban from 2001. That's 16 years. We've invested $4.5 million since that time. That's $281,000 a year. We're only $1.2 million short per year. Why has that happened? And Mr. Pichero, you said earlier you've been here 8 years. Comment on why we've not invested.
Can I speak now?
Yes, you may. Unlike some of your associates that wouldn't let me speak back in May of last year.
Okay.
That was the mayor.
So, to be clear,
Crystal
clear. Is that a scene out of A Few Good Men? The $4.5 million that's been invested was not amortized over the 16 years. That was over the last 4 years. Previously to that, and we still have a wastewater committee, a sewer committee, they have studied this going back 15 years at least. I think the last major sewer upgrade was 1994. We knew, and we continue to know, that and we'll provide that if anybody would like to see it, we'll put it on the website. It was an $18 million recommendation from the Wastewater Committee. We did not do that. What we decided to do 4 years ago was to start to address the I&I, and that's the $1 million a year. So, I mean, we can go back. Why didn't we do it for the last 25 years, actually? And that's a valid question. The answer is, who knows? I wasn't on the committee, and I only moved in 23 years ago, so I can't speak for past committees. I can tell you that this committee has put $4.5 million into the wastewater system, which the sewer customers paid for, or will continue to pay for, I should say.
If we're supposed to put in $1.5 million a year, you and the other committee members were a little short.
Chuck, I'm not too sure where you're going with this line of questioning. The fact of the matter,
very simply, here's the line of questioning. We're in trouble. Why are we in trouble? Because you and other committees haven't invested in a sewer plant. $1.5 million per year from 2001 would have corrected our problems, and we would not have been in this position.
Chuck, that may very well be true, but
It's
but,
true.
no,
Thank you.
okay, but what we're dealing with here is the facts that we have today, right? The fact is I don't know whether you saw this in TV, but we talked about it at length that there are the problems or the issues associated with that plant. We can no longer push off. And I wasn't on those other committees. Please, I wasn't on those other committees, right? But they obviously the issues weren't as problematic as they are today, and so they decided to kick that can down the road. Here we are. We have that can now, and we can't kick it anymore. We have to do something. This is, as Guy said, we were probably the only committee in the last since the sewer ban to actually invest any money in the plant. We invested 4.5 million. 1 million of that went to line 3% of the pipes in town, and the others were to upgrades to the actual infrastructure itself within the plant. In the process of doing that, we realised that there were a lot of other simple maintenance issues that had to be taken care of, and there were other. If we were to get ourselves off the sewer ban, which we absolutely want to do, that we were going to incur additional expense. And so what we did was we looked at all the options at our disposal. We didn't go back in history and say, well, they didn't do this, and if they had done this, there's no use doing that. We have a problem today, and we are going to address that. We are in the process of addressing it. There are two ways we can do it. One, we pass the cost on to the residents, and that certainly is always an option. The other, after a lot of due diligence and talking to municipal officials and other wastewater, other companies, we decided that the other option was the sale of the sewer plant. We embarked on that on a course of action this year, which brought us today, where we put a bid document out. New Jersey American were the highest bidder. They will pay $11 million, and they've committed to do a number of things in that bid. Most importantly, to get us out of the sewer ban in 5 years. And that is now what we are looking to do, and we may or may not do it. I don't know how the committee is going to vote in the 26th, but all we're voting for is to put that question into the hands of the voters. And in between, and if we decide to do that between now and November 7th, we will embark with our professionals, with New Jersey American Water. We will embark on a course of information to the public to help them on November 7th make an educated guess, an educated answer to the question and the proposal. That's it.
You personally proposed $1.2 million bonding for turf field. I said 5 times we need public input and private funds. It never came up. And your associate there tonight's been a member for 8 years. Now, if he was a member for 8 years, that's 1.5. That's $12 million. You invested $4.5 million. You're $7.5 million short. Don't defend yourselves. You failed in your fiscal responsibilities to this town.
Chuck, that's your opinion, and you're perfectly entitled to it. Thank you for voicing it. Do you have anything relevant to the discussion today?
Why didn't you invest $1.5 million in your both terms on this board as a township committee?
Why
didn't you invest in the sewer plant?
We didn't invest in it. First of all,
let me tell you what the numbers are.
No, Chuck, you have
Listen to me.
Chuck,
you have to understand.
Chuck,
you should have invested
$1.2
million, $1.5 million
we have been having
every year. You didn't do it.
Chuck, we've been having a good dialogue here. I'm going to have to ask you if you're going to continue like this. I'm going to ask you to leave.
I'm going to have to ask you to resign.
Chuck, you can calm down and we can have a conversation.
Well, answer
the
question.
You can continue the way you are and you will be removed.
And you
what's it going to be?
And resign from the office.
That's fine, but that's in the future. I'm talking about today.
Short. What about your partner there? He was there for 8 years.
Chuck,
you're
the facts
$10
are
million short.
The facts. This is not germane to what we're talking about right now.
Why are we in trouble?
Chuck.
Guy, why don't you answer? Why didn't you invest more?
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
Oh, come on.
No, I missed it. I didn't hear it. You said, Guy, why don't you answer?
Guy, you've been here 8 years. You said that early in the meeting.
That is a true statement.
Okay, 1.5 million times 8 is what? You know numbers. You said that earlier.
Yes, I do. Well, since you, I know, are very informed on past votes. If you go back, you will see. And
No, you didn't answer the question. 8 times 1.5.
If you let me answer the question.
Keep going.
And to be clear, I'm glad that the Township Committee at that point voted no. You will go back in 2012. The bond was voted for up here. 3 voted yes. 2 bond to upgrade the water system. 2 voted no. And what Jack said earlier, it takes 4 to bond. Now, I voted yes, so I can hide behind that and say, well, if they'd only done what I had voted for. But I'm actually very happy we did not do that, because this line would have happened here. And everybody here who's paying $500 would have been paying, or I'm sorry, $400 would have been paying $1,000. So when I look back, I regret that I voted yes, and I'm glad that the 2 people voted no.
You didn't answer my math question.
Okay, what's the math question?
8 years.
Chuck, this is a ridiculous line.
No, Brendan,
you don't come here to ask. You don't come to ask math questions. If you have something relevant to the conversation that's actually going to add something to the dialogue, the constructive dialogue, I might add, that we've been having up until about 5 minutes ago, then you're perfectly welcome. But I'm sorry, coming in here and quizzing on math questions just isn't appropriate.
Well, you said you're math majors. He knows the numbers.
Chuck,
and
do you have anything?
The problem is, why are we in this position,
Right.
Brendan?
The fact I can't answer that question.
Well,
all I can tell all I can tell
will.
you is we are in a situation, and we are looking at ways to get ourselves out of that situation. And there are 2 options. We either keep it status quo, where the residents pay, or we consider the outright sale of the plant to New Jersey American. That's it. It's simple. We're not here.
Behind what you did.
We're not here to rehash old history.
Why
Chuck,
not?
Because we're not. And just so that you're aware, the first committee that I was on, we voted to invest $4.5 million in the sewer system, as I just detailed for you. We voted for that. And whenever we looked at the situation that we had after spending $4.5 million, we realised that there was some drastic action that needed to be taken, and we are now taking that drastic action.
You should have taken it 4 years ago, 6 years ago, and 8 years ago.
Chuck, that's a conversation for another day, and not for this forum.
When do you want to have that?
We can have it anytime. You and I can get together and we can talk in a civilized manner.
I'll meet with both of you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks for your lack of investment in this plant, and you caused the problem.
Well, thank you, Chuck.
You guys caused the problem.
Thank you.
And if I could circle back, there was something I was going to mention earlier. The engineer from Remington and Vernick would have liked to have been here tonight. They could not. They had a scheduling conflict. They will be here in the future, and they can explain the $25 million bid. I apologize, the $25 million valuation of the wastewater, the sewer system, and explain it in context of the $11 million bid. So they will be here at future meetings. I'm sorry, sir?
We don't have the dates haven't been set yet, but as soon as they are, we'll make sure that everybody knows.
And I would like to add, and I know there are several seniors here, Brendan, Joe. We can arrange, respected senior, my elder. We will arrange meetings for larger groups in town. NJ, I've already spoken with the representatives from NJ American Water. They will be more than happy to come to future meetings. We agreed that I would come to next Wednesday's meeting and speak, but in future meetings, we will arrange NJ American Water to come in and speak to the seniors. Please have as many people there as possible. To any other group in town, school moms, and any group that would like. that's sizable, but we're anticipating, we're planning on doing about another 5 or 6 of these here. But we will go out, we will go out on the road to the senior center. We will go to wherever we're called.
1.1 million times how much?
Craig Moore from Sterling. I didn't introduce myself before. It seems like the difference between those two curves really represents a efficiency that New Jersey Water thinks they can get out of this thing. I hope that's true. That would be great. You know, being a typical American who's a little skeptical, if you guys can justify that difference in these future meetings, I'd be very interested in knowing a little bit more details on why you think you can get to that level. Like I said, I hope that's true. And I'd like to thank the two councilmen and the way you handled this, and I really appreciate the time you guys put in for us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
About being skeptical.
You know, Joe doesn't need a mic,
There were
by the way.
5 bidders altogether, right? 5 water companies bid? How many? No. You said, there were what? Oh, well, there were 5 water companies, they said, and then one was below 0.
Well, okay,
and then one was 0. And then I want to know why this company decided, everybody else said 0 and below 0, but we have better insight, and we're going to give you $11 million.
I have 3 lawyers, and Brendan's a lawyer. I have 4 lawyers looking at me with daggers right now. I was going for a little, you know, humor there. There was one bid.
We all know how Italians are so humorous.
My uncles, Moose and Rocco, are going to meet Brendan outside after and show you just how humorous we can be. There were no other bids. I was joking when I said the other bids were 0.
Why not?
Why did nobody else bid?
Nobody else wants this.
There was another bid that was stated no bid.
Oh, that's exactly right.
On the date of bid opening and had no bid.
So I was actually always speaking the truth when I said there was more than one bid.
There was 3 companies that toured the infrastructure and wanted nothing to do. One of them put in no bid. One of them was based mostly in Delaware, not so much in Jersey.
Okay, I just found it odd. I've been on jobs before, and I'll bid 5,000, 10,000, and another guy will bid 8, and someone will go 4. I just found it odd. There was no competition, no bid, and $11 million. That's a big gap.
No doubt.
So are there any other questions?
Thank you. Neil Lorber, again from Millington. There are those in the township, I don't know just how many people actually, who believe that the township has exaggerated the costs that they have faced in the past for the sewer system and ongoing into the future. In specific, and I'm not an expert in the area, and I am reporting this secondhand, there is the claim that the township leadership, I assume the township committee, argued that it would cost $80,000 to provide 2 new pumps for the sewer system. But in effect, those two new pumps were this year replaced with new motors for only a cost of $21,500. So that's a big difference, you know, the $80,000 claimed cost that would be faced versus the $21,500 actual cost when the replacement took place. So I'm just putting that out. I personally can't say anything more because it's a matter of expertise, which I don't have.
Thank you. I mean, we went from Remington Vernick, a reputable engineering firm came in and gave us the assessment. And so, like you, I don't have expertise in the engineering arts, and so I have to go with what they tell us as being the case. And to what you refer to, I have no idea. It's something maybe I can check into, but I certainly have no idea of it.
And I'm out of my depth as well, but what we can do in a future meeting, I can assure you, it didn't cost $21,000. I'm looking at.
You know where the pumps were. There's 8 pump stations in the plant. Do you know which pumps you saw?
Give me the mic.
Actually, Tom, could you repeat that, please, and I'll give you the mic.
If you can find out where these pumps were to be installed, that would be a help, because we have 8 pump stations throughout town. Each one of them has 2 pumps, and then we had the treatment plant that has many pumps in that. And I approve all the requests for wastewater, so I would, want to know what you're talking about.
Well, then, should I report to, if I'm able to find out more details?
You can report to the committee and myself on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Starting in the spring of last year, I have tried to ask questions very precise, very focused on rate issues, and every time I have done that at township committee meetings, including tonight, I've been asked to cut it short so that other people could speak. So my question is, of all the information meetings that you plan to have or that you allegedly plan to have, is there a time when we can deal with the rate issues on a very precise and on-time-limited basis? And if so, look at the camera and tell me when that meeting will be, and I would like to get it over with once and for all without being cut off. Thank you.
So, Dennis, I'm trying to repair a frayed relationship here, and so I think we can actually rates. There've been questions about rates, in addition to what you asked, and so I think as we are starting off in this process with tonight, I think it's important that that's one area that we've identified that obviously we need to have a little bit more meat around it to answer the questions, and so. I can't commit to a date because we haven't set any, but I can commit to probably the next meeting or the meeting thereafter, and we'll make sure that it's publicised that you have it.
Face the camera and tell me a date when I can ask my questions and not be cut off.
No, and what I would ask you.
You're not controlling the camera. Okay.
Yeah. What I would ask you to do, Dennis, just to expedite that whole discussion, would be to provide us some questions in advance, and so that we can have the appropriate experts review them, and we can have a better conversation that way.
I wrote an 11-page document with my questions and comments on this proposal when this was first introduced, and I sent it to all the members of the Township Committee, asking for an opportunity to discuss it. It's in your hands, and you got it.
Okay.
The question is, when are either you going to respond or give me an opportunity to discuss it with the vendor?
We will give you I mean, I think we are not the people to necessarily the in-depth rate discussion, but I think what we will do is we'll commit to as the next meeting or the meeting after, depending on your availability. We will have that discussion. We'll provide it with your permission. We'll provide that document to New Jersey American so that they have the appropriate foundation to discuss it.
There's no reason why this can't be an open dialogue. We both speak the same language on precision rate making. The problem with canned questions is you get canned answers back. And if I want canned answers, all I have to do is read their proposal, which goes to great lengths to obfuscate the truth. I'd like to bore in on why they said what they said and what they really intend to say.
Okay,
and that's the open dialogue. Now
this is all about open dialogue, and this whole process that we started off today. And so, as I say, at the next meeting, whenever we put it together, or the one after, you'll certainly have that ability.
And Dennis, your question is exactly the right question. Who or which entity can do this cheaper? Where the residents pay less?
No, that's not what that's not the question. Don't paraphrase my question. My question has to do with the mechanics of cost averaging, rate averaging, and whether the growth projections, both yours and his, are realistic.
Okay, well, I still think that comes down to who is going to charge the residents of Long Hill less.
That's not what it comes down to.
All right.
And that's why you have to listen to the questions.
I would just like to say, Dennis, we'd be happy to have that discussion with you. Nobody that's here tonight from the company is in our rates department. Working for the phone company, you know, there are rates departments. We'd be happy at one of the future town hall meetings to have one of our rates people here.
Did you say you were in charge of rates?
No, I'm government affairs. No. I'm as far from rates as you can get. I know enough just to be dangerous and get yelled at. But we'd be more than happy to have our rates folks come to future meetings. And just quickly, you know, we talked about doing some more meetings. I just wanted to put it out there that the plan, as I see it, is to do future town hall meetings similar to this. We'll do a couple in the morning, a couple mid-afternoon, and a couple in the evening. That'll give people on various work schedules and schedules time to come out. We don't want anybody to be able to say they didn't have an opportunity to come out. So as we put that schedule together, chances are it'll be after Labor Day, because people are away in August for vacations and whatnot. So we'll probably have a schedule of those days out soon after Labor Day. We'll do them throughout September and October. And as the councilman said, if you're a part of a group that you'd like us or the councilman or both of us to come to, the senior, whether it's a senior group or anybody else, we'd be happy to come talk to you.
If there are no further questions, I don't think there are. I'll take the opportunity to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And you know, the discussion was quite spirited at times, and I think that's a good thing. We thank the New Jersey American colleagues for coming out and giving us the initial presentation and answering the questions as well. And thank you to Dennis for taking the time to film this and for his very erudite questions. I'm still repairing our friendship, Dennis. And
just one thing, what I said before, I meant sincerely. It's the questions that are apprehensive that are going to help all of us learn. You know, those that are in support of it, I think it's important in future meetings for them to speak. But come with questions that you would like answered. And I think it will be very helpful come November. And that's it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Joe, thank you.
Thanks.
Dennis, thank you.